That 3% factoring fee you're paying, it's not 3%. For the factoring companies, it's more like 36%, sometimes 72%. In this video, I'm going to go through how the factoring company turns that little 3% fee into a, should this even be legal, annual interest rate, and go through some of the traps you need to look out for when you factor. Hi, everybody. Welcome to White Glove Trucking, my channel dedicated to helping you use trucking as a vehicle to live your best life. I'm EJ Anderson, the congressional auditor turned long-haul truck blogger, also known as the happiest, kindest truck on the road. All right, let's get into the video. I've got a general rule. In trucking, anytime smart, sophisticated people want your money, it's probably a better deal for them than it is for you. And factoring is no exception to this rule. I used AI to try to really understand how much factoring is truly costing us truckers. So I asked AI to role play as a smart, sophisticated banker or lender specializing in truck factoring. Make your case to your Wall Street investors on how good of a deal it is to factor trucking invoices. Give the information and the data and the profits that you would never want the trucker to see. Ladies and gentlemen of Wall Street, while the trucking industry is typically considered a low-margin, high-risk commodity, the factoring of trucking invoices remains one of the most consistent hidden gems in all of private lending. In this volatile market, we aren't betting on the price of diesel or of freight rates. We are betting on the impatience of the small operator. And with data showing that over 75% of them factor, it is a bet that has never failed to pay. As you guys will soon see, factoring is a big reason of why it's low margin in the first place. So to see how this 3% fee is really a big deal, let's look at what it means for me versus what it means for the factoring company. Okay, so for me, I average about $200,000 annual gross revenue. And so at a 3% factoring fee, that's $480 a month or $6,000 a year. And since my net profit is about $90,000, that means that 3% fee is taking out 7% of my net profit. Now, that's a lot. But as you'll soon see when we look at the traps, that's not even close to what it ends up really being. Okay, so that's what it looks like for me. So what does it look like for the factoring company? So because of something called velocity, where they get to flip the amount I give them over and over throughout the year, that 3% fee can turn into 36% to 72% annual interest rate. So let's break this down and see how it works. So I run a load. To get my money early, instead of waiting the 30 days for the broker to pay me, I factor the invoice. The factoring company then pays me immediately, charging me a 3% fee. Now, they get their money back from the broker in 30 days. And so they do that again and again and again. They can do that 12 times a year. 3% times 12 times, that's 36% annual interest rate. And since most people know Triumph, I'll use them as an example. So Triumph just posted their 2025 annual report. And in that report, they said they got 33% pre-tax profit from their factoring business. If the broker pays faster, say in 15 days instead of 30, our velocity doubles, turning a small 3% fee into a 72% APR. If we told those truckers we were charging a 36% to 72% interest rate, they would never sign on with us. So we frame it as a small 3% service fee. It feels like a small convenience charge to them, but to us, it's one of the highest yielding legal lending practices in the financial world. And so thanks to the American trucker, we are outperforming almost every other sector of the bank. Once they got us, they know it'll be hard for us to leave. Like as an owner-operator, I am the driver, the mechanic, the accountant, and the dispatcher. So a factoring company knows that for us to leave, we got to spend time researching new factoring companies, filling out the application, and waiting for the new notice of assignment to be sent to all of our brokers. In the banking world, when they know it's hard for a customer to leave once they get signed up, they call that price inelastic. Once a trucker integrates their workflow into our portal, the switching cost is high. Their busyness makes it very unlikely they will leave when we raise the factoring fee or when we add on other small fees. Therefore, they are very price inelastic. We have the data. We know that to a business doing $200,000 in revenue a year, a $30 quick pay fee or a $15 wire fee on a $1,000 load feels like a nuisance, but it's not a deal breaker. We make it so that the individual fee isn't painful enough to trigger the massive headache of moving to a new bank. And that brings us to how these small fees add up and up and up. And to see how, let's look at those traps AI told us to look out for. The first trap is the sticker price versus the reality trap. So the 2 to 3% rates that they often offer are just teaser rates, just to get you in the door. But they are only for the best case scenario. People that have perfect credit, high volume, no additional fees, and they're doing recourse, which means they're taking the risk if the broker doesn't pay. But for a single truck owner operator like myself, who does non-recourse, doesn't want to take that risk, those rates are often end up being 5 to 8%. Okay, so let's see how 3% turns into 8%. So the second trap is the nickel and dime you to death with the fee stack trap. So factoring companies rarely stop at the percentage rate. Here are some of the common add-ons you'll see. ACH and wire fee trap. Most charge $10 to $30 per transaction. If you factor 2 loads a week, that's an additional $1,000 to $3,000 a year in just sending money fees. And again, I'll use Triumph as an example. Triumph said in their report that with their new load pay that they're pushing, one trucker can generate over $5,000 for them just in wallet usage and card usage, not even counting the factoring fee. The aging invoice fees trap. Some contracts have tiered rates. If the broker pays in 40 days instead of 30, the rate might jump to 4 or 5% automatically. Minimum volume trap. If you decide to take a week off or you find a direct shipper that pays fast, the factoring company may charge you a missing volume penalty because you didn't give them enough work. The cash flow prison trap. You factor to pay for fuel, the fee eats into your profit. You don't have enough cash for the next load, so you have to factor again. Now you're caught up in the factoring cash flow prison trap. Okay, I mentioned this one earlier, but the recourse, non-recourse fee trap. Now, recourse factoring is cheaper. Might be 1 to 2%, but if the broker doesn't pay, it's on us, and the factoring company will take that amount out of our next check. So a lot of us will opt for the non-recourse option, which puts the risk on the factoring company. But here's the trap. That often only covers broker bankruptcy. It doesn't cover other things that might be the reason why you didn't get paid, like doing the paperwork wrong or because of a claim. Okay, guys, so here's the final and last biggest trap of all, the net income trap. Now, I mentioned this earlier, but let's take a look at how it really hits. By losing 3 to 8% of our gross revenue, factoring is taking a huge chunk out of our net profit. Look at this chart to see how each percentage level actually cuts into my net profit. That ends up being some serious money, you guys. You can see right there. All right, you guys, that's it for this one. I had always wanted to learn how factoring works, like to really understand it. I had an intuition that it really wasn't what it seemed, and by doing this research, it seems like I was right. All right, I hope this is helpful to you guys. Take care and see you on the next one.